Push it real good. Dun, dun, dun. Hello. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another live taping of Podcast Pontifications. Seems to be working over there. So now I'll push this button that says hello. It's me, Evo Terra. Thanks for joining me on the program today. We are indeed going to talk about podcasting. Specifically, I'm going to ask a question, which I do a lot, called, have Evergreen podcasts gone out of season? Isn't that clever? What am I talking about? You'll find out in just a minute. For those of you brand new to the program, hi, welcome. My name is Evo. I do this show every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday when it's in season. I'm not talking about those kinds of seasons, though. And I do it live on a lot of social things because, people like to watch how the sausage gets made. So that's what you're seeing. Hi, Betty. Lovely to see you here. Thanks for joining me. Yeah, Betty likes to watch. Harlan, a few other people come in and hang out and watch. We do it. It's fun. It's kind of a fun thing. But so what you're listening to right now is not going to be actually in the podcast because this is just me getting ready to talk, drinking some tea. Good morning, Kamal. Just kind of getting things ready. In about 2 minutes, when I feel like it, when the pipes are ready to go, I shall be doing the program. So you're going to watch that live because that's what you've chosen to do. However, if you do not want to watch it live and you want the final polished version, great. Podcastpontifications.com is where you want to go because at 10 o'clock in the morning, that is 3 hours from now, the article will be posted. I will take every word that I said in just a moment and I will rewrite it in a human-readable article. There will be an episode of the podcast available. Again, podcastpontifications.com. People who have subscribed to the newsletter, and I recently switched over to Ghost. So if you were a prior newsletter subscriber, you're still a subscriber. You're just getting it from Ghost as opposed to Substack. Anyhow, but I will send all those things out, both of those things out, to everyone subscribed to the email. So that's a nice and convenient way to listen if that's what you prefer to do. And a little later on today, excuse me. See, this is why I do the early show. To get the throat cleared out, Allie will be posting the video to YouTube. It also goes to the page at podcastpontifications.com. Basically, everything points back to the podcastpontifications.com, but I spread the wealth all over the place. So thanks for joining me. I'm going to sip some tea. My vocal coach has encouraged me to try and take a sip when I feel that my throat has to be cleared, as opposed to clearing my throat, but it's a bad habit to break. So here we go with this drinking of the tea. Right, so topic for the day's program, have Evergreen podcasts gone out of season? Even if you don't make a seasonal show, I don't make a seasonal show. Although I do, I guess that's not true. I do my show in seasons. This is season 3, but I'm talking about something different. I'm talking about seasons as in the weather, as in consumer buying habits. And I'm going to dispel a notion or start poking at a notion, not necessarily dispel it. Start poking at the notion that evergreen content is what we should be going for. Maybe we should not. That's the thing I'm going to explore in the next 9 minutes or so. Okay, how are things looking? Are we looking pretty good? I think they're looking pretty good. So let's move over here. No, I don't need that one moved. I need this one moved. Oh, when you have too many things on one screen, my wife has like 17 screens. I have one. But here we go. Okay, all that is over there. Let's put that live chat. Where'd my live chat window go? Because I want to be able to see that in case somebody has something to say. I'll move that over to here. Okay, now that's not in my way. I can still see me. I can still see this. Yeah, that all works out pretty well. Okay, so I am going to do the cold open, and then I'll start the show. And again, if you're watching this and you're going, why am I watching this? Remember, podcastpontifications.com is where this will wind up in 3 hours. So you can skip all this live behind-the-scenes stuff. But hey, I like it that you're here. Okay, cold open. Stick to a format and release schedule. Stick to a format and, I forgot the word and. Stick to a format and a release schedule for your podcast is the common refrain. But consumption habits change during the year. Are we sacrificing opportunity in the name of evergreen content? Yep, that's what I want to say. I'm going to start doing it right now. Stick to a format and a release schedule for your podcast is the common refrain. But consumption habits change throughout the year. Are we sacrificing opportunity in the name of making evergreen content? Hello and welcome to another podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. Maybe we're wrong about evergreen content. People's habits change throughout the year, as I just said. At least for some things, right? I mean, consumerism, if you want to use that term, because that's what we live in every day, for a great many products and services, is quite seasonal in nature. Now, commodities aren't greatly impacted by the seasons. I probably buy the same amount of paper towels and toilet paper, generally speaking, throughout the year. I don't, maybe a little bit more around the holidays, but most of the time that's the same, right? But for other goods, especially specialty goods and services, seasons affect us. So, is your podcast a commodity or is it special? You see, for years, I've given the advice, as many of my podcasting fellow consultants and pundits have said before, make evergreen content. Wherever possible, make evergreen content. Don't mention dates if you can avoid it. Don't time block your show by saying things like next month or last week, even though I violate that rule all the time, but such is life with a daily podcast, I suppose. But for the most part, many of us want to make timeless episodes. Google loves timeless episodes, and just the nature of on-demand content that podcasting is, we don't know when someone's going to choose to download and listen or when they discover it, so we want to make it with as few date-based time stamps or maybe even speed bumps as possible. But I got to rethinking that recently. At least for some shows, because of that very real impact seasons have on us as consumers, which I previously mentioned. And podcast listeners are not immune to those same forces that impact them all day long during those seasonal changes. But if your podcast doesn't, So I'm rethinking this. And I've got some recommendations, I think. And it's not, however, a one-size-fits-all examination or recommendation. It starts with an examination, which is where I was going. And that is to examine your show and see if seasonal consumerism plays a role in your audience's lives and the content you're relating with. It plays a role in everyone's lives. But the content they're consuming, is it also perhaps impacted by that seasonality for them? Now, you can't look at download stats to find out are more people listening in July than they are in January. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I mean, look at the industry or the segment that your content is a part of and see if there is a natural seasonality to it. I'm going to give you two examples here. One's a very extreme example and the other ones are less so. The extreme example is the easy one. Let's say the podcast that you make is about a sports team or a specific sport in and of itself. All right? If that's the case, you're probably already doing this. But for the rest, let me explain. You want to lean into that season. And I think you even want to adapt your episodes to fluctuate with that seasonal change. So yes, you should absolutely, during the season going on and playing games, you should absolutely talk about yesterday's game when that's happening. Absolutely. You should, or yesterday's games, if it were. And then when postseason comes around, switch up your episodes. Switch up the way you produce an episode because it's postseason now. And then during the off season, maybe you're doing deep dives, profiles, if you will, on the players because it's off season. And maybe even in the off season, rethink your episode output. Maybe you're doing it every week during the real season, but in the off season, do you need to do it weekly? Do you have to? I mean, you could, but people's attention are not quite as much on the sport then. And then when preseason begins again, kick things back into high gear, get back on your regular release schedule. And if you do it that way, think about all of those episodes that you did. Think about packaging up those episodes into that season and really making a season out of your podcast as well that follows that sports team or that sport season. That becomes a very cool time capsule for true fans who want to say, what happened in, 2016 with this particular team? You've got it all sized up there. That's the extreme example. Let's do the much less extreme example. What about a particular city? Or maybe that's what your podcast covers. I used to be the host of the Bangkok podcast. We covered Bangkok. We kept our content pretty evergreen. Maybe we shouldn't have. Maybe we should have changed that up based on the travel that comes into this very big travel destination city. Or maybe around certain events when a city is buzzing and that's what everything is all about. We could have talked about what's happening right now with the weather because Bangkok has seasons. It's the weird seasons, the hot season and the wet season. And there's also a quieter part where people are leaving town and stuff. We could talk more about these things or even cover what happens in your town when the tourists aren't there. Again, that's leaning into the seasons and actually modifying your content to fit where they actually live. I said I was going to give you 2 examples. I decided I'm going to give you 3 because those are really kind of extreme. I think even your show possibly might be more subtly impacted by seasons than you think. Like if you're doing a personal finance show and you're not talking about the tax season, or you've got a family-friendly or even a family-focused show and you're not covering back-to-school issues. I don't mean shopping. I just mean the changes in people's lives around back to school, wherever back to school is or whenever back to school is for them. See, shows like this that are influenced by, but not dominated by a season, a more subtle approach is required for those. And this is where very cool dynamic content insertion that most podcast platforms are jumping on board with right now can really come into play. You can drop in those seasonal things and then take them out when that season is over without impacting your main content. Or maybe you are producing full episodes that lean into that season that are designed to be short-lived and will actually disappear from your feed after a certain period of time. Maybe you relegate them to a bonus content section on your website or something only members have. I don't know. But I think we need to rethink this one-size-fits-all approach and demand that we all use evergreen content because seasons and the way seasons impact our listeners could have an impact on our show. It might be a good way to start. And I think this certainly starts by you deciding whether or not you're really making evergreen content or not, and whether or not you should be. Now, that's a question that might be very hard for you to answer, so once again, I encourage you to check in with your peers. Send them this episode, see what they think about the idea of reseasoning for some of the reasons I talked about here, and share ideas and opinions about each other's shows. Maybe there's something you could do here as well. Now, if you love this idea, please consider going to buymeacoffee.com/evoterra and buying me a coffee because coffee's always in season. Iced coffee, hot coffee, doesn't matter. Anyhow, I'm getting off topic, so that is it. I shall be back tomorrow with yet another podcast, Pontifications. Cheers. Recording is off. Okay. Hi, Betty and Kamal. Actually, you're the only ones that are talking to me, and that's cool. That happens sometimes, right? So, hope you got a lot out of that. Hope you enjoyed that, rethinking the way you're thinking things in podcasting. And if you missed it, if you came in late, don't worry. You don't have to back up to the beginning. You can just go to podcastpontifications.com where this episode, the article I'm going to write, and the video will all be posted. Well, 2 of those things will be up in the next 2 hours and 47 minutes. That's when the article and the audio will be done. Podcastpontifications.com. Video comes up a little bit later once Allie gets it all cleaned up. Right. Okay, that's it. So thanks for hanging out with me and rethinking what we think about seasons. Another episode coming on deck tomorrow, so if you like watching live, I'll be here at this time tomorrow on whatever channel you're looking at. I'm now pushing this out on the LinkedIns, the Twitters, the YouTubes, and even Facebook. It's going across all of the platforms now when I do the live thing. Because why not? Never know when somebody wants to listen. Watch my ramblings. Again, podcastpontifications.com for everything else. That's it. See you tomorrow.